It's I, Sister Twisted Fister of the Holy Crisco, of the Toronto Sisters of Joy, the Jubilant Order of York. And I come to you tonight having just been to the most wonderful evening hosted by Pride Toronto at the 519 Community Centre here, and it was a human rights panel on the Bathhouse Raids. Now, for those of you who don't know what the Bathhouse Raids are, in 1981, in February of 1981, the Toronto Police conducted raids on 4 Toronto bathhouses. They were extremely brutal, extremely undignified, and extremely nasty, and they led to uprising, which is largely considered to be sort of Canada's Stonewall moment. Very, very important time in the coming together of the gay community of Toronto, really coming together as a whole for the first time. And at this symposium, at this talk, was Margaret Atwood, the famous author, who spoke herself at the very first rally the night after the raids happened. The queers took to the streets, and we protested and we rallied, and she was one of the speakers. Margaret's not gay herself, but she is definitely an ally and has been for a long time. Also was Reverend Brett Hawkes, who went on a hunger strike until he could be guaranteed by City Council that the actions of the police would be looked into. And Susan Cole, who's an amazing lesbian journalist who's just amazing to listen to. She was simply wonderful. Also there was Dennis Finley and Gary Kinsman, and these two men were men that were directly involved with the raids, or not with the raids, but with the protests that followed. Dennis Finley was the coordinator of the Court Watch program. He fought with many, many of the men who were arrested in the courts to get them off. He's not a lawyer, but he took his expertise and his passion and is doing it still. And of course, Gary Kinsman was a member of the steering committee and that helped organize and mobilize the protest march. All incredible people from history and all wonderful. Also there was, and I'm going to say his name wrong, Ajamu Nagangwe, and he's a wonderful activist from the Black community who spoke wonderful things about how any community that is marginalized, any community that is victimized, is not a fan of the police for obvious reasons. And the Black community now is going through many of the same things with the police that the queer community did years ago. And he talked about the need for cohesion and the need for solidarity between the different oppressed groups. It's quite a stirring evening, and the most incredible thing was watching the video of these men from and women, of course, from 35 years ago, and then seeing them live right in front of us talking about these wonderful historical events. What was also incredible, I have to say, was the diversity of the audience. Young to old, all different colors of the rainbow, all different gender, what's what I'm looking for, gender identities. You name it, it was there. It wasn't just, the old folks getting together and talking about old times. It was everyone, and it was an incredible, incredible event. I must thank Pride Toronto 1,000 times for organizing these. But there are more panels coming up. Please do check the Toronto Pride website and find out when they are. I think they're all happening at the 519, but I'm not certain. The 519. But do check it out. But I just wanted to share the one thing that I took home with from tonight that was fairly incredible, and that is we had a giant celebrity in our midst, Margaret Atwood, who's known internationally, and she's not what impressed me the most. She spoke wonderfully and eloquently, and she's a wonderful supporter. But to see the men who were there and the men who went through it, and the women who were there at the time and the women who went through it was just breathtaking and wonderful. And I encourage all of us to please not forget our history. I know this is preached about a lot, and I know much is said about the young queer of today who aren't interested in one. Well, I wasn't interested at that age either. Who the fuck is? It's history, we don't care. You live in the moment when you're younger. But I do very much encourage everyone to investigate their queer history, whether it goes back 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, 80 years. There were things that happened before Stonewall. There were things that happened before the Bathhouse Raids. Look at the laws that were passed in Berlin before the Nazis came in, and how the Nazis coming in destroyed that, and the history of the gays with the Nazis and the concentration camps. Our history is everyone's history. It's not just the last 20 years, the 30 years when we got more vocal. There have always been queers, and that means there has always been queer history. So go back, darlings, find out what your history is, investigate your community's history, your national history, the worldwide history of the queers, and don't let the same things happen again. As Margaret Atwood said tonight, if it happened once, it can happen again. The reason we need to know our history is not because such and such happened years ago. It's because it means it's what we're capable of as a race. The human race is capable of these things, and they will happen again unless we take care. We can't take care if we don't know what happened the first time. Anyway, my lovelies, it's time for me to get out of face and take off my burlay and put this tired old drag queen on to rest for the night. But go with love and light and sin again. And remember, my pride is your pride is our pride. Bless you.